Hi, welcome to PJ and the Beard. This is our 19 conversation series. This is episode number 54. We've done this 54 times. It's hard to believe. And we have guests today. And we actually, believe it or not, have a topic today too. So this is, it's all kinds of crazy. So first time with two guests on the show. Welcome to the show, Mr. Gary or Rocky Rothrock and Uncle Brian Landreth. How you guys doing?
Mr. Gary.
Sorry about that. Hey, thanks.
How you doing? We're good? You can...
Yep. Yeah, we're great.
All right. So this is an idea that Brian came up with, not too long, or actually quite a while ago, after we had started the channel. In some episode, somewhere along the line, it might have been one of the interviews, we mentioned the Blues Jam. And he's like, Brian, you came up with the idea of doing this idea of like, let's talk about what it would take to go to a blues jam.
Yeah, I thought about that a lot because I went to one and I didn't really know anybody. I didn't know how it worked. And it really turned out to be, it wasn't a very good experience. And it wasn't their fault. But for some reason, they had all their amps mic'd. But me, I wasn't. So they were quiet and everything. And so for me to get out to here, I was just stomping on everybody. And then, I more or less, I cut up and played with some guys I didn't know, of course. But they made sure I didn't know the songs. It was just a challenge. And then after that, I went to another one and I've gotten to where it's just a good bunch of people. And, we all get together and everybody can play good, and we just have a good time. We just kind of mix and match the bands, just whoever feels like playing.
Awesome. So I think when you brought it up, I was like, that's a great idea. And I immediately thought of bringing Rocky into that conversation because Rocky has been, I met Rocky at the local hotel. That Rocky what?
You might want to qualify that.
That's where we met.
It isn't really a hotel,
right? The owner lived upstairs and never invited us. The local hotel was the name of that's where the Blues Society of Central Pennsylvania was hosting the jam. That was probably, I was trying to think about this, at least 21 years ago that they were doing that.
Yep.
That it started. I don't know if you know the exact time frame for the Blues Society.
Well, nobody was really keeping records back then. It was sort of an informal thing. You just kind of grew organically. But our best guess is it started in 1998, which would be 22 years ago.
Okay. And that fits in the time frame because my first year as teaching was 99, 2000, and I think I was going to the Blues Jam prior to that happening. So that makes sense. And in this 22 years of time that's been happening, you've been the president of the Blues Society, held some other roles, I think. But more importantly, you've hosted the jam countless times.
Yeah, for quite a while. I'm the official title is chair of the jam committee with the Blues Society.
Okay.
But that means I do the scheduling for the hosts because we have a host every week, and we have a whole great group of people who agree to do that and put up with the abuse that goes along with it. And I try to host at least once a month, but of course we haven't been doing anything since the middle of March, other than our Thursday broadcast we're doing now. But it's been a great ride, and I've met wonderful people and great musicians, and it's been an opportunity for me to grow as a musician and learn. And it's the best time I have all week. So it's really good. I miss it.
Yeah, I can imagine. My dog is going nuts.
Oh, that was Zelda. I wasn't sure who that was.
Yeah, that's Zelda. My dog is going nuts, and somebody rang the doorbell, which is really concerning. But
do you think it's a new pedal? Should you go check?
Yeah, it could be.
I probably should go check. But it totally just crushed me. It's what we wanted to talk about.
You go check. I'll welcome everybody into the chat, and
Okay, let's do that.
We'll watch the show take a nosedive when I'm in charge. So, yeah, but again, thanks for Rocky and Uncle Bri coming on. I've been to blues jams. I don't know if I've ever been brave enough or asked to be on stage. So I think this is going to be an interesting conversation from both sides, right? Like even already Rocky talking about here's the host and, the amount of abuse they take. So, I think at some point we'll probably break down like what is it like on the organizer side. And then, Rocky, I understand you also would play in these scenarios. And then, Uncle Bri's already talked about his first experience where, felt like it maybe wasn't the most welcoming and engaging, and maybe it had nothing to do with the organizers and everything to do with who was on the stage. Because Jason even shared a story, before going to a jam, probably not yours, Rocky, but kind of felt like maybe he wasn't set up to succeed initially. So maybe we'll get into a little culture of blues jams, and I think it's going to be an interesting discussion. But Paul Ewing is in the chat, and Uncle Bri's in the chat and on the screen. Brody Hutchins checking in, Sean Zimmerman, and Pete Hickson. So my phone, when I have my phone a certain way, I'm upside down. And so Rocky asked me if I was the one from Down Under today, but I just had to flip my phone around. So Jason, I just basically said we're going to attack the blues jam from both sides, from the organizational side, from the playing side. And Uncle Bri's already shared an experience like you had where maybe some of the people were not like setting you up to succeed initially. And like, what can the culture be like? And those are all the brilliant points I made while you were gone. Like, that's what
you were pretty bright there.
Thank you.
And that was my parents leaving stuff on the doorstep for my wife because she came home from the hospital. I'm like, you couldn't have texted to tell me you were coming.
Did you get to yell and tell them to get off your yard?
Yes.
Role reversal.
Right.
So do you
Get
want
off
to
my
dive?
hand.
Yeah, that's right. Do you want to just jump into the clip so people can like see it? I mean, I'm not saying the people in this chat haven't been to a blues jam or seen one, but
right. So this is in thinking about this, I went back to the Blues Society Essential, went to YouTube, typed it in. Somebody had asked, it might have even been Brian that asked a week or so ago, if there's any clips of us playing. And so this is one of the first ones that popped up. It actually is a clip of me playing. I'm in it. Bill Walsh is also playing guitar, who's a great guitar player. I think it's Mariana on bass. There's some great players on stage. I remember this night. I didn't know there was a clip of it, but I totally remember this night. And remember it was one of those, weeks where you're just like, oh, man, things aren't, you just needed a little something, and getting to the blues jam and getting to let off some of that steam. So one of the great things about this topic we're talking about tonight is that ability to let off some steam. And then sometimes you get up with a band, and Rocky and Brian will know this. Sometimes you get up with a group of people and everything kind of clicks into place and you walk away feeling great. Of course, other times you walk away feeling like you need to go home and take a shower. But
if you could figure out what the difference is and how to avoid that other, it'd be great.
Because it has nothing to do with quality of players. And that's what a lot of people don't know, and that's something we should talk about here. But let's show the clip real quick. Screenshot tab. So here's the clip.
Look at you go.
Never heard you play that quiet.
So, Rocky, why don't you tell everybody what's happening there? Like,
well,
how
first of all, let me say some kids must have got put in detention that day if that's how you played that night when you showed up at the
Right.
So anyway, go ahead, Rocky.
Well, our jam, I haven't been to a lot of blues jams in other places, but a lot of our players and members have. And what they tell me is that most of the blues jams that they've seen have a house band, or at least a house, basic group of musicians, who many times they'll do a whole set sort of performance, and then they'll invite one or two people up to sit in. And that might have been Brian's experience, where he sat in with a band and they didn't give him the proper respect or something. But we don't do that. We have what we call an open jam. So you come in, you sign up, you put your name and your instrument, and the host has a whiteboard with sets 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, with like vocals, guitar, bass, drums, horn, harp, all keyboards in each column, and the host puts the names in. So when you sign up, you really don't know who you're going to get up with, although generally if you get there early, you play early, and if you get there later, you play later, or maybe you don't get to play. And so it's really sort of a random shot you take when you sign up and you play. And it's a mixed bag. We have a lot of regulars who come out on a regular basis, and we kind of get to know them, and we get to know what songs they like to do and so forth. But it makes for a lot more of a learning experience and a lot more of a shared experience, I think, when you just have people sign up and just get up together, and somebody will call out, okay, we'll do Stormy Monday at Key of G. Start on the 5. 1, 2, 3, go. And everybody's, getting in it, for better or worse. And, most of the time, it seems to turn out that we have mostly experienced guys, some of whom know each other in a set. And maybe there'll be 1 or 2 people who are new, or, who are learning or whatever. And it turns out to be a good sound most of the time. I mean, we've cultivated, I think, a group of players that, can carry it off in a given week.
And it's a rotating cast of characters over the years.
Say what?
It's a rotating cast of characters throughout the years.
Oh yeah, yeah. And we have, like our Thanksgiving jam. We always have a jam. It's Thursday, so we have a jam every Thanksgiving, and we get a lot of people that come into town, just for Thanksgiving to see the family, and they'll show up at the jam and play with people we hadn't seen all year. It's really quite a fun deal.
So, Brian, how about you? The jam that you frequent, how's that run?
Well, it's a lot like what Rocky just talked about, except that, well, it's pretty much like that, except everybody has gotten kind of to know each other so well. So, like, I might get up with this bass player and this drummer this time. A lot of times I'll play with my friend of mine named Tony Harden, excellent guitar player. And me and him really play together, really well. And sometimes we'll have a keyboard player, and, we'll do songs. One thing I learned the hard way, don't try to do songs the other guys don't know. I thought I was going to do Going Out West one night. You've heard Mule do it. And it's a pretty simple song, but if you don't know it, it's really hard. And I thought, oh, this is easy. They can follow this. No. And so I really stuck out pretty bad that night. But, like you said, we have some nights, man, we just kill, and it's just great. And I wish you could, figure out what the difference is or what causes that. But when it works, it's good. But generally, our talent is, we've got one guy that's in that Rockabilly Hall of Fame. He's kind of the head of the jam. He hosts it, and we make the list and put down, but we normally just kind of work it out. It's almost like just a bunch of friends getting together and playing. And then we have another guy that comes in, Jerry McCoy, that he had played bass with the Allman Brothers one time, and he's just brilliant. And so you never want to follow Jerry, and I always follow Jerry. But, he's so good. And he's so nice, you want to hate him. He's so good, but he's so nice. You can't help but love him. Just a great guy. And then we've got a bass player, and then we got 3 or 4 bass players that come in. And we've got some people that are new. We got one guy named Kyle Rollison that when I first started coming, he couldn't do, I mean, he didn't know how to do anything. Now he's in a year's time, he's really come around and really gotten good. And so it's fun to watch people get better. I hope they're watching me get better. I try hard to get better all the time. But, you know, and then it's, I don't know how to say it. Only thing, of course, is that we always get too loud, but isn't that just the nature of a blues jam?
We have the same problem.
I never.
By the way, I wanted to say happy birthday to Ben Coombs and hello to everybody in the chat that I normally type in, and I wasn't ignoring you. Okay. Sorry.
I have a question, and I think we'll get to backline and stage volume at some point, even though that would have been a nice segue. So, you know, so Rocky talked a little bit about like show up, you're on the whiteboard, you blend the right combination of musicians as far as instruments. But the songs kind of, you were saying, happen organically, but is it, I guess it would have to be the people singing that would kind of call out the songs, right? Because they have to know the lyrics and the structure. And is that generally how that works?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, it's usually a singer, guitar player. I mean, one of the things that's always an issue is, well, how do you start the song? It's pretty easy if you're a singer and a guitar player. You can just kind of start playing the rhythm part and everybody kind of find their groove and fall in behind you. Just run through the chord rotation, you know, one or two times before you start singing, and everybody's locked in. And you know, I think Brian's got a good point. You know, we try to stick to straight sort of 12-bar blues, maybe with slight variation, so the people have an easy time following. And there's a lot of songs that have that straight 12-bar blues. So that makes it easier. And it depends on who you're up there with. You know, if I get up there with guys that I've played, you know, 30 or 40 times with, you know, they know the stuff I do, then I can get a little bit more creative with the song selection. But another thing Brian mentioned was this, watching people grow and watching people get better. I mean, that certainly happened to me. I wasn't even a blues player when I started. But it's really gratifying to see a young person come in there, or even an older person who wants to try to improve themselves and learn, and watch them grow over a period of time. Of course, with 22 years, we have a fellow that came to our jam at the 40 and 8 Club as a 13-year-old guitar player, and he was scorching at 13, and now he's going to Berkeley School of Music. So, you know, it's been a fun process that way too.
Now, something that we do, like on the songs, a lot of times, like if there's a song that I want to do, I'll just copy a link off YouTube or something and just send it to the guys that I know we're going to play with. So at least that way, if we're learning the song, you know, we can watch a video and learn it pretty quick. At least that way, we're learning the same version. You know, we learned that the hard way, you know. But, you know, any songs that's got any kind of unusual changes in it, I'll send it to the bass player, send it to the drummer, and, you know, send it to Tony. Me and Tony will work them out, you know, online. We very seldom practice together. We kind of practice for ourselves and then, you know, shoot videos back and forth at talking to each other. And that seems to work pretty good.
So to tap into something that both of you are saying, so from my personal experience, as you know, going to this jam forever, I haven't been there much in the last probably, I don't know how many years. Life changed, but there was a time where I was the religious every Thursday night regular, and I probably walked into that jam about early 20s when I walked in. And so for me, it was, I mean, if you ask me where I learned to play guitar, I would say the Blues Society Essential Plays. As much as I know how to play the guitar, where did I learn how to play the guitar? At the Blues Society on stage, you know, with those guys. And so for me, it was one of those, like, you would get up and jam, and then they would take you. We've mentioned Gary Harrington, and we showed his Les Paul weeks ago or whatever. They would take you out in the parking lot and tell you what you did wrong. You know, sometimes very politely, sometimes very encouragingly. And other times they would tell you why you were dumb. You know, maybe a little more.
Well, Gary Harrington's stats are probably not nearly as intimidating as Mitch Ivanov, right?
Right. Yeah. Like Mitch would certainly let you know when you were doing right, and he would certainly let you know when you were doing wrong. So, you know, you get that look from Mitch. I picture him with his hand down at his side, like kind of snapping along, and then, so like that's not what you should be doing. So for me, the Blues Society in the beginning was a place of learning. It was like, here's a place where all these gigging musicians go. And because all those guys were out gigging at that time, and it was a time for them to get together with guys in other bands and play with guys in other bands, and then you would get to be kind of like along for the ride and get to learn from that. So it was a very, I always pictured it as a learning experience, like, and so
It is that.
both of you said this is a place to go, put on ears, listen, and learn. And so I had a question earlier today about this, or just thinking about it, but I guess it's kind of cool to see you both bring that up and say, yeah, it's still that's kind of what's happening, and that's what's going on. I did have a question. Go ahead. Go ahead, quick, please.
I'm sorry. One thing that really works out for me is I've been in bands and I've played in bands, and you know how much work it is to be in a band. I mean, it's if you're not at your job, you're doing something band related. Just practice, get together, load in, load out, do all this. And I've got a job now where I just don't have time to actually organize a band. I mean, we've got one and we're kind of working on it, but it's kind of an informal thing. We'll get it together when we do. But, now all I've got to do is grab a guitar, grab an amp, go play with great musicians, play music that I probably never would have thought to play. I learn learn. And then I get to go home. And that's just almost enough for me. I'm just about over playing gigs. That's a lot of hard work. When I was young, I did it a lot, and it was fun then. But, it's, I'm tired of eating, going out on dates at 3:00 in the morning at Waffle House. You know what I mean?
Yes, I do. Exactly.
Yeah, with your bandmates, right?
Yeah. And so that kind of leads into the question. Thank you, Brian. You helped me figure out where I was going with all that. So here's the question: if I'm sitting at home playing, and I remember like the first time I ever went to the Blues Jam, I walked in with the ugly teal green strap my wife hates, and I got up on stage. Rocky will be the only one in here that will appreciate this. I got up on stage. It was Gary Harrington on a lap steel. It was Billy Stock on a dobro, and me on a Stratocaster. And those were the three people on stage. That was it. Like if I had known then what I know now, I had to turn around and walked out. I've been like, I'm not playing, whatever. So what are your recommendations to get somebody over that hump? Like if they're sitting there at home, maybe playing in their bedroom a lot, never played in a band, never really played in a group situation, what do they kind of need to know to get themselves motivated to walk out the door and walk into the jam?
Wow.
Go ahead, Rocky.
Well, I think they need to know the basic 12-bar structure, if they haven't done that. And I mean, they have to know that it's not about them when they get on the stage. The thing that I think that you need to learn when you're going to be jamming or playing in a band. In a band, you have the chance to, as Brian says, you rehearse and the parts and what you're supposed to do, where you're supposed to play, where you're supposed to back off, that kind of stuff. You need to listen for that when you go to the jam. Though, everybody pretty much going to get a solo, but the idea is you need to form, I would say, a groove. You need to form a sort of rhythm section. Everybody needs to be a part of that. And then on top of that, you start laying your solos and your vocals. So that's the more challenging part, I think, and the part I enjoy the most. I'd rather play rhythm guitar in a good tight rhythm section than just about anything. I really enjoy that. And that, I think, is something that a lot of guys come in and they've been sitting in their basement and they've been, putting their overdrive on and turning their amp up and wailing around. And they think that's what jamming is about. But it's really not. It's about getting in the groove with the band and playing the rhythm track and getting that tight and getting that sounding good. And then all the solos are going to sound good on top of that. So you got to listen first, figure out where you fit, get the groove, and then When it comes your time, then turn up a little, do your solo, and then back off and get back into the rhythm section. And that's probably the biggest mistake I've seen people make coming into a jam, where they get up and they turn up too loud and they play solos over top of the vocal and everything, because that's what they do at home. They just play solos all the time. And that doesn't leave a good taste in anybody's mouth going off the stage. So
if you go into the jam, and Brian, you can chime in on this. If you go into the jam with the intent, and this transcends all instruments. I don't care if you're playing drums. I don't care if you're playing that sweet Hammond organ the Blues Society has sitting over in the corner. Doesn't matter what you're playing. Horn. If you go into the jam with the, I'm going to show everybody in this room how good I am. You're laughing because you know these
You're
guys.
to find out.
Yeah.
Right. Have you ever seen anybody, here's the question. Have you ever seen anybody get up on stage with the I have something to prove and everybody's going to know how good I am attitude at the end of this, and had them walk away being somebody that you want to play with next time they come?
No. I've been that guy, and I learned the hard way on that, okay? I found out exactly how good I was, and it's not very. And Rocky was exactly right. And one thing I think it might be a good idea to do if you're first going to jam, because it's a lot of fun. I see somebody said it sounds too serious. It's not serious. It's just you got to kind of have some way to have a plan, or it just sounds like mush. But something that would probably be a good idea, if you're going to go to a jam, just go. Don't take a guitar. Don't play. Just go, sit down and watch the show and just see what's going on. Yeah. And then when you're there, find out who's hosting it, explain you'd like to go play. And then let them, if they know that you're kind of new or kind of, they'll stick you somewhere where you can just sit back and play the rhythms and just find that groove. And I tell you, it's hard because you get on stage and, like when I'm playing the gig, first couple of songs, it's hard for me in my head because I'm trying to get my sound right and I'm getting everything sorted. So I'm really not only halfway paying attention. And I don't listen enough. And so when you get in a jam, you've got so many things going through your head. Am I too loud? Am I too quiet? Do I know this song? This, that. And you forget to listen, like he said. And if you'll just kick back and if you've got it, like we've got a great drummers and we got great bass players. If you'll just kick back and let them do the work, then you don't have to play very hard. And like I said, just get that little rhythm. And another thing too, don't play the same power chords that the other guitar players are playing. Find you a little inversion somewhere and just come down on just a little bit. You don't have to do much. That's one thing about, I saw Hack talking about the blues is hard. It is deceptively hard because it's so simple. But the trick is this blues is like fudge. A little bit can go a long ways. You just take it easy. Just take it easy and it'll just come. But and Rocky's exactly right. I'd like to play at his jam. That sounds like a good time.
Thanksgiving.
So, yeah, somebody said it sounds too serious. If it's a jam, doesn't remotely sound like a jam. And so where I would politely disagree, right, is that Rocky, like Mitch would always talk about, the song, right? Right. What are you doing at a jam? Are you trying to get up and do a performance and create a song as a group, or are you trying to get up and prove that you're the best guy in the room? And so if you're serving the song, if you're getting up there, serving the song, serving the guys you're playing with, there is a serious point to it. But on the other hand, it's a jam. You're getting up with 5 guys that you don't know, or you might know because you've been there a lot, but you're getting up with 5 other musicians that you don't play with all the time. Somebody's calling a song, somebody's calling a key, and you're jamming. But there's some polite things about it. So song structure, Rocky. If I'm going to get up at this jam and I'm going to sit in, okay, so I'm not supposed to solo. I'm not Stevie Ray Vaughan, right? I'm not throwing a lick in between every single vocal line and stuff like that. When do I get my turn? Like, how does that work?
Well, the leader, who's usually the singer, if they're doing their job, they're going to signal you. They're going to point to you and say, they'll do what I do is I'll sing a verse or two, and then I point to the person that I want to do a solo. And then while he's doing a solo, I'm looking around and trying to get the attention of somebody else, and I signal to them. Sometimes just a nod if they're looking at me and they know, that's the routine. That's how the solos go. I have usually what I do is if it's a slow blues, I give each person one rotation. so that it's not going on and on and on, especially if you've got 4 or 5 soloists up there. But if it's an up-tempo song, I try to give them 2 rotations. That's pretty simple. We don't really talk about that. I just signal people. And then usually I'll do a couple instrumentals, and then I'll sing another verse, and I'll do a couple more instrumentals. And it seems to work out. We do half-hour sets, and we usually try to do 4 songs in a half-hour set. So it means they're pretty long songs.
Yeah.
And that includes the time to get up and everybody plug in. One of the things that's different about ours, Brian said about bringing an amp, we have an entire back line set up. We have 2 deluxe reverbs, PV Delta Blues, and a Blues Junior for guitar. We have an Ampeg bass amp, drum kit, a 57 vintage Hammond organ, great big thing, and an electric piano. And that's all set up, monitors, PA, everything. We have a sound man too that runs the sound. So all you got to do is bring your guitar and plug in. You can bring your amp if you want to. You know, we allow people to do that too. But we do mic everything. We were talking about volume. One of the things that we tried to do is we kept cutting back the wattage of these guitar amps. So we have 2 deluxes. There's 22 watts, and we have a Blues Junior at 15 watts, and our monster amp is a PV Delta Blues, which is 30 watts, and it's still loud. It doesn't matter. We could probably go to 5 watt amps and it'd be loud.
Now, the reason I take an amp is more they indulge me just a little bit, because I could probably get by. I've gone and not taken an amp, but sometimes I just like to take my amp just to play it.
Sure.
But I always make sure I can get up and be ready to play quick. I don't mess around. And like in between songs, we don't mess around. We come out of one and we start counting off to the next one, you know. But talking about structure and jams, here's the thing. One night, me and Tony got up, probably one of the first few times we got up and played with this jam. And it was, I was going to play a song, and somehow the band thought I was going to play something else. I mean, you know, I took off one thing. I didn't quite get the rhythm right, or they wasn't familiar. And so we just had to wing it on the spot. And it turned out to be probably one of the best songs. If we had to pick one song, if I could do that again every time, it'd be great. That was a great jam. And I was literally just making stuff up on the spot. I wrote that song right on the spot. The band just fell in, and it was tight, and we were doing breaks, and we were doing stops, and then we're hitting licks. I guess that's one of the things. And something you talked about the other day about having amps on stage at different things. Here's the thing for me: the best way to listen to music anywhere in any way in the possible world is to be on stage with a band, with amps, and listen to the music on stage. Because it's interactive, because you're a part of it. If you do this, he's going to do that. If he does that, you're going to do this. That's the most fun way to play music. And if I can't do that, I don't know if I want to play.
I'm with you. How about in the chat real quick, since we're talking about this, just let us know. Have you been to a blues jam? Good experience, bad experience? Was it house band, not house band? You know, just we'd love to hear from people in the chat, like what your experience has been with jams that you've been to, if you've been to one, or if you haven't been to one and you want to go to one, if that's, something going on too, or if you have any questions about going to a blues jam. So anything you want to put down there in the chat, but we'd love to hear from people that are in the room right now.
A couple comments to that point. Brody was saying that, the vibe plus the song plus dynamics in his estimation equals the blues. So vibe, song, dynamic. And he said if you kind of follow that structure, the places to be highlighted in solo kind of become obvious, right? You kind of go through the structure. And then I thought Hobo Rody had kind of a cool point. He said his Uncle Paul can lay down the tastiest of all leads, but at jams he lays back in the pocket and stays out of everyone's path. But eventually they coax out some stunning crescendo because they know him, right? So it is kind of like, even though you're in these jams, you probably have those moments where you're like, that guy can really do something here. And maybe that's when Rocky gives that guy the nod, like, come on, let's do something here. So
I remember a guy told me when I was younger, the best drummers are the ones you forget are there. I was playing drums at the time, and he told me that, and I've taken that to heart, in some regards, like sometimes the guy that gets back on the drum set and just holds down an incredibly tight rhythm and isn't trying to put a fill everywhere is the guy that you remember, the guy that can lead the dynamics, hit the breaks and all that. It's not always about proving how good you are, I guess. So,
and something else that's really important to remember, because it is a jam and you never really know who you're going to play with or what you're going to play, accept the fact that it's not always going to be good. I mean, just sometimes you just get the wrong combination. Somebody's off, or you get with somebody who can't play, or they're trying to. If you just roll with the punches, don't get mad, you'll get another chance and it'll be good the next time. And if you go in there and get your feelings hurt because, like, you say something happens and there's a lot of people to play, so instead of getting to do 4 songs, you only get to do 2. Well, you just got to work with whoever's organizing the thing because he's doing the best he can to get everybody their fair share of time. You know, some nights I get to play, and sometimes I'll sit and play rhythm and play 3 sets. Sometimes I only get to play a couple songs. But I know that I'm welcome, and I know that it's not personal. Sometimes you just got to do things just to make it work. You know, because I hate seeing people get mad or get their feelings hurt because they don't feel like they got their fair shot. Because I know they always try to give everybody the best.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if it's run
How do you
right,
feel about that, Rocky? You have that trouble?
Occasionally, but really not very much. Occasionally, when I'm hosting, we got everybody signed up, and I try to mark them off as I put them on the board, and I'll miss somebody, and somebody will come up to me and say, "Hey, how come I'm not up on the board?" And hey, I made a mistake. Sorry, I put him in. There's a certain finesse you have to be a host, and a tolerance of people, because there's egos involved. Everybody's sort of tied into, well, how well am I playing? Did I sound good? They want to know, and so egos can get bruised. But we really. I would advise anybody who wants to go to a jam to leave your ego at the door and just do the best you can and have some fun.
So to that, I would add, because Brian said, like, sometimes it's not, you get up and it's not good. And I've had my fair shares of, I think Lee Carroll, who was a keyboard player that played at the jam, great keyboard player from Nashville, originally toured with the Judds, played with a band called Exile. I mean, the guy's been around. I remember him saying to me one night, "Wow, I just feel like I need to go home and take a shower after that." I'm pretty sure he's the guy that said that line first. And I've been there. But here's the other thing. If you're sitting, like, if somebody's sitting at home, they're like, I think I want to go to a jam, but I'm not sure if I'm good enough. My advice would be go, because what I can tell you, and Brian said, if you could put a prescription on what it takes to get the good feeling, right, where you walk out feeling like a rock star, you can't. Because what I can definitely tell you is the caliber of player on stage has nothing to do with how good the end of the jam, how you feel when you come out of your set. I've been up there times, where over here in this corner, the hand-picked band is getting picked, right? We used to call it like back in the day, there was like the all-star hour or something, right? Where all the people that played all the time wanted to play at a certain hour because that was the highlight of it. And I've been there where that's happening, and I'm getting put up with people maybe they didn't want to play with or whatever, and I walked off feeling like a rock star. I walked off feeling like, wow, that was really, really, that was good. It's not a caliber player thing. It's how well the people, I think, listen and play together is more important. You don't have to be the best drummer in the house to keep good time.
Well, another thing that's so great about jams, and we had mentioned, is it's the people that you meet, and the connection. I don't want to say connections you make, but you meet people to play with, and so it opens up opportunities. The guy that runs our jam, Butch Scaife, he owns a studio, and I wrote a song, and it was a silly little song, you've heard it, and he just thought it was funny, and he wanted to record it, so he got me. I got to go into a studio for the first time in my life and record my song. And it strictly come from playing at that blues jam. And I've got other songs we're waiting to do as soon as this plague is over. You know, I mean, he said, I'm ready to come back. So you never know who you're going to meet, and not just connections. I mean, you meet some really great people, you know, and like some of my best friends are people that I've met at these jams. It's, I guess if you want to say fellowship or whatever you want to call it, that's what I like about it.
And not just players either.
No, people all over. Yeah, great crowds. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's one thing about our Blues Society. We're like a big family. We have, a picnic every year. Well, we didn't this year. It's supposed to have been tomorrow, but we're not going to do it because of the virus. But we have a Christmas party. We have other events, and we have this jam every Thursday. And we get a lot of people out who are not players, just come to listen to the music. We have a membership that varies between 400 and 500 people. And it's like a big family, and we do things to help each other. You mentioned Gary Harrington. Gary had a physical, a medical issue, and needed 24-hour care. And our Blues Society got volunteers together to take care of him 24 hours a day for, I don't know, 3 months.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean,
Really?
yeah. Pretty amazing group of people.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the background that grew out of the jam more than anything else. Amazing.
And it how many bands over the years have formed? You know, Brian's talking about meeting people. The band that I've talked about several times on here that I played with for, I don't know how long it was, but it was a long time in the life of a band, life of a local band. It was a long time, but that started one night at the Blues Jam. 5 people wrote their names down on a list, got called up to the stage, played 4 songs, walked off, exchanged numbers. And by the next week, I think we're having rehearsals. And within a month and a half, I think was out kind of gigging and starting to have that happen. And that went on to record, like 2 CDs. As a local band, it was never anything more than a local band or semi, we maybe went out to Maryland or something from Pennsylvania, but was a great experience. And all from that. And there's several other, we're not the only one. Several, in fact, Rocky, some of your band members were probably met through the Blues Society.
Oh yeah. Acoustic Stew. We've been going since 2006. And we met, actually we branched out to do an acoustic jam to supplement the electric jam that we did. And that's where we originally met the 4 original members of that band. I'm the only surviving member, not surviving, and people didn't pass away, but they moved away. But the band's still going. It's better than ever, really. All these other really good players decided to come and join me in this band. So it's been great. So a lot of bands have grown out of it. A lot of bands contributed to it. Mitch and Kenzie Johnson and those guys that were playing at that time. Really helped form the jam and do the jam, and it's just grown and continues on.
So if you want to get out there and start playing with a group of people, it's probably, I can't think of a better way to start getting your feet wet to do that, to sit down, to learn to play in a group, to learn to play dynamically with a group and all that. That's a great thing. It's a great way to do it. What are you say, Brian?
That's what I was fixing to say. Fixing to.
That's what he's fixing to say.
Yeah, I got something I'm fixing. No, if you're not very experienced and you're a bedroom player, and you're wanting to get better, there's not a better place to go than a blues jam, because the only way you can learn to play live is to go play live. And your first time, it's going to be rough. Okay, just deal with it. But you can learn more in playing those 4 or 5 songs than you can play in 4 or 5 days in your bedroom. You learn on stage because you learn a lot of things. And if you want to get a band together, you need to get some experience playing with people, because you try to get a band of bedroom players together and you just have a train wreck. You've got to learn how to be live on stage. It's another skill set.
It's so
putting on a show is different than playing, I guess.
It's so funny that you say that. I got asked to go a while back. I got asked to go play with maybe be like a second guitar player in a band, and I got there, and the guitar player that they had was doing it by himself was fantastic. But the guy walked in and started tuning up his guitar. He didn't have a tuner. He's like, "Give me an E," and he's like doing the 5-minute tune with the amp on full blast. He's playing with the amp super loud. I mean, like all the things that you would learn not to do, right? And to the point where I laughed. I was like, "Well, this has been fun. I have this thing I have to, and, like I can't do this." And it wasn't like an ego thing. It was just I can't do this. This isn't where my head's at. So yeah, I mean that's a great point, Brian. It's cool. It's cool.
We talk about
you're going to make mistakes. I mean, you're going to be the one that just screws up and embarrasses yourself. I mean, everybody does it. And when you realize that a mistake only lasts a second because that next note could be perfect. So just let it go, get it behind you, and keep going. If you make a mistake, just go. Don't worry about it.
Do it twice. It's jazz. Rocky, what were you?
There you go.
Well, you're talking about your first time up is going to be rough. I will always remember my first time at the Lochiel Hotel. I had gone like 3 times and watched and listened and thought, I probably can do this. So I took my electric guitar and I got up, and they were doing The Thrill Is Gone. And I'd never played it before, and I didn't realize or have enough of an ear at that time to understand that it was mostly all minor chords, right? So they said, "Can you see?" I'm going, all right. So I'm playing all these major chords behind this band, and Mike Easton was standing in front of me playing harp. And after about 3 or 4 rotations of me playing the wrong chords, he turns around and goes, "Minor."
Rocky,
But that goes back to listening too, doesn't it?
Really? So I started playing all minors, which wasn't right either, but it was closer to what I was supposed to do. So you learn. Now I play that as I sing it and play it as a part of a band. So I learned the chords fine.
That's hilarious you say that, because right before you told that story, the dog pod typed in the chat saying nothing like starting a solo in a sit-in, and the bass player leans over to you and says, "It's a minor key."
Yeah.
So but don't be afraid of that. Just you got to learn. You got to start somewhere. If you go in it with some humility and understanding that I got to learn from these guys, even if you've been playing 50 years like me, you're going to do fine.
I think Blaine Weiser, which won't mean anything to most of you, but he's a bass player and really, really talented musician. And when he's not getting paid to play, he's always out playing at jams and stuff. And I asked him about it one time, and he said, "Look, I just figure if you put yourself in as many uncomfortable situations as you can, you're going to grow much faster." Right, yeah. So Ed is, I don't know how old he is. He's considerably older than me, maybe considerably older than me if he's watching. He's still putting himself in those uncomfortable situations. He'll play with anybody, anywhere, because he's going to learn from that. Down in the chat, 2 and 3 chords asked if people sometimes bring their own pedals. So yeah, I think what you'll find, a small pedal board, a small pedal board maybe, and a guitar, bring your own cables, at least at the jam that I'm used to. I would, if I was going to go to that, I normally try to take a little pedal board, maybe 1 or 2, delay pedal and an overdrive and a tuner. 2 cables, plug into one of their amps, turn it up to 12. And then, use the pedal board. That little Joyo battery pack that we talked about, we did an episode on. It's a great little power supply because it's battery powered. You can charge it up. It's perfect. You don't even have to plug the pedal board in. But yeah, I think you'll find most people take something to put in front of the amp. Mm-hmm.
I take way too many pedals, but they don't mind, so I keep doing it.
The key isn't,
but everybody. But we have a lot of people that bring pedals because, like, one of the main guys, one of the kind of the house band guy, he's got a pedal board, and there's 3 or 4 other people brings pedal boards. The only trick is get it on stage, get it off stage. It's not a problem because at least that way you got something you're familiar with, Because if you plug into a Blues Deluxe or a Blues Hot Rod Deluxe and you got your pedal board, you can find your sound real quick.
That's what Brian took the words out of my mouth. The key isn't what you bring. The key is how fast you can get your butt on stage and be ready to play. Right? Like you want to get up because every minute you take getting ready to play is taking time away from the people that are on stage ready to play.
Yeah, because Rocky said it's a 30-minute set, including getting up and changing over. So, yeah, you want to get it done.
I think in any band situation, what the most annoying thing that to me, either if I'm playing or watching, is people who dawdle around in between songs or dawdle around getting set up. Get your stuff together, get on stage, and start playing. And then when you hit the end of a song, if you're going to swap guitars, get going. And one other little lesson I learned the hard way the other day, I'm going to pass this on. Don't step on your tuner pedal thinking you're hitting your overdrive because it mutes you and you can't figure out what in the hell just happened. And I was running around, I was unplugging wires, and then I hit my tuner pedal and everything was back good again. Now that was embarrassing.
Nice.
Yeah, I have a Boss multi-pedal that if you hit two pedals at the same time, it goes to tuner. And every time I use it, I at least once, instead of hitting the overdrive pedal, hit both of those, and I'm completely, for a solo, I hit it, nothing's there. So you got to be quick on your feet in that situation.
Right now we're at 51 minutes, so we're getting close to the hour mark. I'm going to point that out so Brian can get his last questions in before the hour mark hits. Brian likes to push that. Now we have him on camera. Who knows? Is there anything else, Pat, that you saw in the chat or anything you've been thinking about? Because you've been kind of quiet through this one just because of the topic probably. But
yeah, I think we've kind of caught a lot of anything that was like a questions, and a lot of them kind of echoing the same sentiments that our guests are saying. Like Brody said, the best jams are the ones where musicians want to learn from each other rather than wanting to show off to each other. There's no room for egos. And, one thing I wanted to say, because, not everybody in the chat is maybe a blues musician or maybe versed in the blues, but these conversations about how you show up at a gig or an event is important, right? It's the same thing whether we were with the Central Pennsylvania Blues, Central Pennsylvania Jazz Society. It'd be the same kind of things, right? You listen to each other, you show up, you be respectful. Brody and I played in bands for a long time together, and we'd show up at a bunch of different venues, and a lot of times you just have to constantly remind yourself, I'm a guest here, right? I'm here as a guest. I want to enjoy myself and have fun, but you want to kind of make the place better, right? So I think a lot of it, we've been kind of circling around the general theme is like, just be respectful and be willing to be helpful, be willing to learn, and those moments are going to come, right? You don't necessarily have to force those moments to come; they're going to come. So, that's sort of some of the things that have been ruminating in this little, brain over here as we're talking.
Totally, Pat.
That this stuff translates to other genres, right? It's about how to be a good musician, and I guess I was kind of thinking, with Rocky having to host some of these. And you kind of do the whiteboarding, but do you ever have like bands kind of show up and want to use your jam as their platform to kind of showcase their music and try to get up like together? What does that look like?
Yeah, we actually encourage that.
Okay.
We allow for that. We want them to let us know in advance. Contact me in advance, and I'll let the host know. And we usually will give them a good set sort of in the middle of the night so people get to hear them. Because the Blues Society is all about promoting blues. And our focus is really very local. We've seen a lot of local bands, as Jason said, be formed and come out of the jam. And we really have a local focus on our music. So if a local band says, hey, we'd like to get a set, we'll give them a half hour and showcase and introduce them. And, it's a way for them to build a fan base and have people that like that kind of music listen to them. So we do that. We try to avoid having that happen in a regular set. Guys will come in together and try to sign up together and play together. We don't necessarily prohibit that, but we try to mix it up more because it's more of a learning experience if you do that.
Right. Pete Hickson real quick. Go ahead, Brian. Go ahead.
Oh, go ahead. Pete's right. Listen and be ready when it's your turn.
Yep.
It's something that we kind of went around. We're all kind of coming at this trying to give people advice that are new to it. I tell you, if you want to really be a hit or really get along, if you've got somebody if you are an experienced player and you are pretty good, you've got to help that guy that's his first time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, the guy that doesn't have the experience. If you help those people, now you want to look good in in any band situation. Be the guy that's helping the guy learn. That's the best thing you can do. Help somebody feel comfortable. And if they make a mistake, just cover them. You know, that's just being polite, but that's just what you should do, because there's nothing worse than being the guy that doesn't know and then have the guys, well, I know what I'm doing. You know, you just got to hang. No, bend over backwards to help them get set up, help them get their songs together. You know, I mean, that's what people did for me. And I appreciate those people. I respect those people just a ton. And, you know, I grew up in Southern Arkansas, and our blues society is at Port City Blues Society in Pine Bluff, Arkansas. We have a deep history of original blues acts, you know, people from the blues, you know, it's there. And now I'll tell you something, when you play with some of those older blues guys, the guys that have been doing it from way back, they might play 5 bars, they might play 7, they might play 3. You never know when they're going to change.
They might change
better just be able to jump on and hang. But you know, they're the real deal.
Yeah.
And you got to give those guys respect, because they understand blues and they play it. They feel like this is my show, I'm playing it. And you can give those guys the credit and let them go. Sometimes it's a challenge and sometimes it's fun.
Yep. Oh yeah, like Big Jack, you know, you never knew when he was going to come off the one. You know, you just got to pay attention.
Right. So this came out to speak to what Brian was saying. We showed this guitar in an episode. Rocky, you probably recognize that.
Yeah.
So,
is that Harrington's guitar?
Right. So caretaking right now, but the reason there's such a sentimental value to me to this guitar, the reason that it's been in the house, and Harrington's like, play it, use it, play it, and I'm like, nah, it's your guitar right now. You know, I'm not doing that right now. Is for that very reason. Because that's that guy that when I was first going out that would take the time to say, well, let me tell you some things. Let me show you some things. Let me explain some things to you. He didn't have to do that.
Right.
I'd go out to his gig and he'd be like, why don't you get up and sit in with us? You know, like, let me help you along. Let me, you know, there was that relationship. I would look up to him as a guitar player the same way. And I've said it many times that I would look up to just about any guitar player that I look up to throughout, you know, my life in trying to learn guitar. So, you know, that's really special. And I think that relationship that you're talking about, Brian, taking that time to do it. Some people are much better at it than other people, you know. I think about Rocky Mariana. I haven't been at the jam a lot in the last few years, but I've witnessed almost every time I've been there, when she's up on stage, if there's somebody kind of new, she kind of sidles up next to him a little bit. You see her whispering in their ear. You see her, you know, she's a bass player, so she's getting herself in a place where she can give that support to maybe the guitar player that hasn't played a lot. And I thought that was really cool, you know, like this will see that stuff happening.
Yeah, she's really good at that. But that happens a lot with a lot of people. I think the attitude at our jam has always been that way. I mean, there are some people that kind of shake their head and walk away, but there's most people will try to help the newcomer. Yeah.
I love how supportive the audience is too.
Yeah, they really are.
You know, and that might be overlooked at times, but you know, the audience makes everybody that gets up there and plays a solo feel like, you know, I feel like they clap for them, they pat them on the back when they're done. I think the audience really makes people feel good about what they're doing too in a situation like that.
Yeah, we have some guys that are learning and getting better, and the audience knows that because they come enough weeks that here's Sean again, and he'll get up and do a solo, and you know, they realize he's getting better, and they really appreciate. They really give him a big hand, better than some of the guys that really can kick ass. You know,
it makes me.
I'm sorry, Beard.
Because Dancing Dot, who's it's just Dancing Dot in the Blues Society of Central Pennsylvania. But I remember her saying one time, "Oh, we used to when you first were coming, when you were in your 20s and coming, you get up, and you're like, oh no, here we go." This isn't going to be good.
And now it's playing again, Jason.
Right.
Beard, I hate to do it to you, but I got one more thing.
Yeah.
3 seconds.
No, now I lost my train. Never mind. I had something I was going to. You got me.
So I'm looking at the chat. Was there anything left in the chat?
No, just people kind of chiming in that, their experience has been that some maybe more seasoned player kind of either took them under their wing or just gave them advice about these are the types of people you should be listening to and that kind of thing. So, a lot of things just kind of validating what our guests are saying today, right? Like that's been other people's experience. Go ahead, Brian.
I just remembered what I was going to say or ask. Or the people, you're talking about interacting with the people and your crowd. I always go out and visit with everybody. I've gotten to know the crowd. So then, but it's really important too. I think it helps a lot when you go, don't just get up and play your song and then pack up and go home. Try to stay and watch everybody. Encourage, stay for the whole show. That just seems polite to me. They sat through, they watched you. Stay there and watch them because they might think they might be the last, last on the list, and they want some people to watch them. So I stay there and I cheer and I holler, and I'm gonna support everybody that gets up and plays. I'm gonna stay as long as I can. Right. And that was all I got, Beard. I know I went 30 seconds over.
I'm looking at 2 and 3 chords jams here. Says there's a video from 3 years ago. Gal bass player. Some guy makes me look young. He's 63, jamming out electric guitar. It's your blues? Yeah. Well, I mean, there's some older gentlemen that come and play, right?
Me.
Yeah. I mean, Rocky.
Look at Brian's shirt.
Come on. Last point before we let Pat wrap it up is that if you did go and watch the people that play, Rocky mentioned a 13-year-old. There was a young girl. How old is the girl that has been playing drums the last couple of years?
She's Anna. She's 12.
Yeah, her father brings her every week.
Yeah.
She's up at 12 and plays the drums, and she's killing it.
Yeah,
we're talking people from 12 years of age up into their 70s and 80s that come. So it's really one of the craziest things about the blues family, the people that love music, is it transcends age, transcends so many things. Because you walk through the parking lot and you look at the cars in the parking lot and you go, I'm not really sure where I'm at because there's every model of car in the parking lot. It economics, age, everything gets kind of transcend. It's a love of music that brings people together, and it's really cool.
That's true.
So
10 seconds, Beard. I need 10 seconds. Music, if you practice every day and you get better every day, well, if you've been doing it for 50 years, don't you think you would be really good in 50 years? Music seems to be the only thing that older people act like, well, I learned a lot in this time. I didn't know near as much when I was 20, when I was young and pretty, as I do now, but I can play a lot better than I could then. So give some old people some respect. We still got a step or two left in us. Thank you. That's sorry.
Amen, brother.
That's good.
So the video he's talking about is right here. Let's see. How do I do that? So I don't remember, Rocky, what that gentleman's name is, but that's the video he's talking about.
Yeah. Couldn't make it out of my screen, but I look like Mariana on bass, though.
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely Mariana on bass. Looks like Mike Easton playing harp.
Yeah.
I don't know who the drummer is. I do recognize the guy he's talking about on guitar, but I don't know how old he is or what his name is. And I don't know that. Doesn't look like it really zooms in on him anywhere.
No.
All right. Well, anyway, first of all, Brian, thank you for the idea. I thought it was an interesting conversation. I do feel like maybe we ignored people in the chat a little bit. That sometimes happens when you get one guest on, too. We're still newbies at this. We don't know how to do it. But thanks for everybody that tuned in to watch. Brian, thank you for the idea. Brian and Rocky both, thank you for joining us for an hour to just,
My pleasure.
Thanks for inviting me.
oh man, anytime. We're fixing to invite you again.
Thank you. I was hoping you'd do that.
Yeah, me too. It was fun.
Great. I'm glad. I hope you guys enjoyed hanging out.
If you're ever in Arkansas, holler. We'll go to the Blues Jam.
Right. If you're in Arkansas, find Brian. He's in live chats on a lot of the YouTube channels. And if you are in the Harrisburg area, Blue Society Central PA, I think there might be a link in the description for this, unless our intern messed up again.
They've been known to do that.
Yeah, interns have had off ever since COVID-19 started.
That's
With
right.
that,
Yeah, I mean, I'm fixing to realize that we might need to go do some maybe live stream on a Thursday night, perhaps. I don't know. We'll have to work that out. I'd love to go to the Blues Jam and meet all. I've known some of the people that Jason's talked about, so it's a really great idea. And again, thanks to our guests. And with that, I'm PJ on behalf of the Beard, reminding you, no matter what you hear, you never have too much gear. Even when it's a keychain.
have a good one.